It's still up for debate whether those records are included in MLB's record books. But I attest and I loudly protest anyone or loudly protest against any notion that this should not be included, because this was all professional baseball. There really wasn't the distinctions that we have now back then. So, Joe Borden, you have the first no-hitter in professional baseball history. It's now some other firsts in no-hitter in sanctioned no-hitter histories. Tony Mullane, who was with the Louisville Eclipse, pitched the first no-hitter from the 50-foot pitching distance. Now, a little bit about Tony Mullane. He was one of the most interesting thing about him was he was one of the very few ambidextrous pitchers in the history of the game, meaning he could throw with both arms, both left-handed and right-handed, and it's reported that sometimes he did both at the same time. Mullane was nicknamed the Apollo of the box. Now, I couldn't figure out why he was called the Apollo of the box. But I certainly draw inference from the fact that he was often scheduled during Ladies' Day promotions. And if you look at pictures of him, the guy is he's strikingly handsome, especially for a pitcher. I mean, if his baseball card, the Daguerre type photo, he's definitely kind of like one of those man's type man, you know what I'm saying? From back in the day. He's got the cool curly Q mustache. He's very well built, always looking stout, and he's his face was chiseled like a movie star. So they booked him to pitch on many ladies' days, and hence that's why I'm inferring that he garnered the nickname the Apollo of the box. Mullane was also known for being cheap and often wore clothes until they became very raggedy. Again, I can look at this guy as a hero for that. I tend to do the same thing. Mullane is a second all times in wins among pitchers who are not enshrined in the Hall of Fame. So again, Mullane is not in the Hall of Fame. He is still eligible. So maybe we should start knocking on the doors of all these Hall of Fame writers and be like, hey, forget Pete Rose just for a second. Even though you're not even considering him. But just forget all these guys for a second and let's give Tony Mullane another look. Only Bobby Matthews, and here's a little bit right here. Only Bobby Matthews leads this guy in wins among pitchers who are not enshrined in the Hall of Fame. Bobby Matthews is another one of those guys we need to start putting in the ears again of these Hall of Fame balloteers. He might have won 300 though, and I'm talking back to Mullane. Mullane might have won 300 if not for a suspension he served that kept him out in during the entire 1885 season. He was the all-time leader in wins, also by an Irish pitcher. Only Blyleven won more among non-Americans. Canadian Ferguson Jenkins won as many as well. Just a little point there. A fine hitter he was, as well as a great pitcher. Mullane played over 250 games at other positions as well to keep his bat in the lineup and to also keep that chiseled face in the lineup, especially during ladies' outings. His 661 career hits are tops among pitchers, hands down. Again, Hall of Fame writers, let's give Tony Mullane another look here. So, in 1884, Mullane won 36 games for the Toledo Blue Stockings. The Cincinnati Reds turned around and signed him, but due to his being on 4 teams in the prior 4 years, the American Association punished him for jumping from team to team. This is during a time when the baseball leagues were trying to put an end to this barnstorming, the de facto barnstorming by these players, sort of going around and playing for whoever they wanted. He was prohibited from playing that 1885 season as a result. So he gets no numbers that year. And if you look at his averages, I mean, with a high of, not a high, but he was averaging easily in between that 20 and 30 mark. So you add like 20, 30 more games to his pitching career, and he's well over the 300. Despite missing the season, though, Mullane won more games than any pitcher in American Association history, and also pitched the most shutouts. However, and here's where a lot of these old ball players from the time sort of fall short. And we can't really, justify the following with the times, though, the rampant racism throughout the league was sort of a thing then. Mullane is known for this. He was known for his racism. His catcher in 1884 was sometimes Fleet Walker. Now, Fleet Walker, if some of you historians and super baseball nerds out there know, is credited by the Society of American Baseball Researchers with being the first African-American ball player to play professional baseball. I contest it was actually William White, who played a couple of years prior for the Providence Grays. There are other shows dedicated to that. We won't get into the nuts and bolts of that today. But Fleet Walker, who was one of these early African-American players who played in the late 19th century, caught Tony Mullane in a number of games. Mullane admitted to purposefully mixing up Walker by throwing pitchers that the catcher hadn't called for. He was trying to make him look stupid, basically. When he didn't admit this, Mullane also called Walker the best catcher he ever worked with. So on one hand, he's trying to mix him up. On the other, he's calling him the best catcher ever. But he's still been accused of racism due to his mixing up pitches on purpose, specifically to Fleet Walker. Now, I don't know if I can go that far and call it racism, but the popular notion among baseball historians, writers, including those at the Society of American Baseball Research, is that he was known for this. So I won't go any further, but perhaps this is one of those things that is keeping Tony Mullane from future consideration. Mullane's name did actually make it to the 2013 Hall of Fame ballot, in which the Veterans Committee examined candidates from the pre-integration era, which is kind of funny because Mullane's favorite catcher was an African-American, and yet they're calling it the pre-integration era. I just thought that was kind of a funny thing to throw out there. Now, Mullane's first no-hitter at the 50-foot pitching distance, rather it was the first no-hitter in professional baseball at the 50-foot distance, occurred on September 11th, 1882. There's not a whole lot of information out there to attest to the game, but it is in the record books as a no-hitter. Tony Mullane of the Louisville Eclipse no-hitting the Cincinnati Red Stockings and winning that game 2-0. Now on to another first that kind of caught me by surprise. Where did you go there, buddy? I'm pulling up my notes here. Please forgive me for having to go through my notes. George Washington Bradley, a 5'10.5", 175-pound right-handed fireballer from Reading, Pennsylvania. He was kind of a big guy for the time that he pitched in. His final game in 1888, he was nicknamed Grin. Won 33 games during the last season of the National Association, and then won 45 games in the first season of the National League in 1876. I'm going to repeat that real quick. George Bradley won 45 games in the first season pitched in the National League in 1876. That's just insane. We're never going to see those kinds of numbers ever again. He, too, moved around a lot, like a lot of pitchers had back in the day, playing for 9 teams in an 11-year career in the majors. Now, what's striking about this is the reserve clause was not something that was it wasn't that big of a thing in the major leagues or in professional baseball back then. Back then, the reserve clause only allowed teams to reserve, so to speak, 5 players tops, but a lot of these guys managed to avoid the reserve clause. It wasn't until much later where the team started implementing the reserve clause to whoever they wanted, and then finally it was basically abolished in the late 70s, which opened up the whole free agency thing and the insane salaries and blah, blah, blah. And anyhow, back to George Bradley. He appeared in 347 games as a pitcher, but also appeared in many games at other positions, as I just said. He pitched the first National League no-hitter in 1876 when he was a member of the St. Louis Brown Stockings. Now, there's a wonderful book out called The Summer of Beer and Whiskey that talks about this season of 1876. This is the year that many people, or many historians and sabermetricians and baseball nerds and writers, etc., this is the year that many people have said that they point to that baseball truly became America's national pastime. This was an absolutely astounding year. Bradley threw the first National League no-hitter that year. And baseball went on to become what it is today. So now we're on to Ted Breitenstein. But before we go on to Ted Breitenstein, I'm going to take a little break. I need to get my notes together here. It gets a little messy around here sometimes during these baseball broadcasts. I'm going to play a song by a band called Los that I found recently. And enjoy! This is Say Goodbye to Indolence, which is perhaps fitting. Goodbye, Indolence, and hello. Big Game James Show coming right back in a moment. And continuing on with the show, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to WHIP Weekly. Today we're talking no-hitters, we're talking players. So we're not necessarily